Good afternoon, everyone. Doug Wagen here with Yui Systems. Welcome to Steamtember. We're going to get started promptly at 1 o'clock. So we still have a couple of minutes for some people logging on. So if you just bear with us, we'll get started right at 1 with today's webinar, Steam Report Generation in Ultratrend DMS. So another couple of minutes and counting, and we'll get this show on the road. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Steamtember. This is Doug Wagen with Yui Systems, and I'm very pleased to have my colleague Stan Hewlett here to guide us through today's webinar titled Steam Report Generation in DMS. A couple of quick housekeeping issues before we begin the webinar. One, we're doing this live. So should any minor blip or technical difficulty arise, just please bear with us. We'll get it corrected just as soon as we can. Don't anticipate any problems, but one never knows. The other thing is we'll be recording this. It should be on the UE website sometime next week, at the very latest the week after. So for colleagues who may be interested in this, for review purposes, if you want to go back through some of the things Stan is going to talk about today, it'll be available on our website. So please, if you have any questions on how to access past webinars or this current webinar, please drop us an email and we'll be happy to guide you through that process. We're going to try to answer your questions live, as many of them as we possibly can. Any we don't get to, we'll be more than happy to email you the answers. And if questions come up as you review the webinar in the future, or questions come up that you didn't get a chance to ask us during the next hour, please feel free to go ahead and drop us an email. We'll put our contact information at the end, and you'll have an opportunity to go through any questions. We're happy to take your phone calls and emails and work through any issues you may have, guide you through how to use the reporting functions inside of Ultratrend DMS. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Just gonna see to it that my screen changes. So a little bit about Yui Systems, for those of you who aren't familiar with us. Founded in 1973, so we've sort of been around forever. Sort of the global leader in ultrasound technology for use with both steam systems and a myriad of other applications. We use ultrasound for compressed air leak detection, mechanical testing. We can help you with your condition-based lubrication programs, and certainly for electrical inspection. So we've got a full range of applications that and a full range of instruments that can help you with those applications. Very large global footprint. We've got several regional offices in the U.S. We've got international support for those of you who have logged on from overseas. We've got offices in Mexico, Canada, South America, Europe, Asia, India. So again, a large global footprint to offer you technical support, both on the instruments and on the software and the applications. So please don't hesitate to ever reach out to us. I'm going to go ahead and turn the presentation over to Stan. We're going to spend a little time, and he's going to guide us through how to use the Steam reporting features inside of Ultratrend DMS software. Again, any questions you have regarding our instruments, regarding the software, report generation, or regarding Steam applications, please reach out to us. This is a great opportunity to make contact, and we can certainly answer those questions via email or even over the phone. Again, our contact information will be at the end of this webinar, so we'll be able to walk you through things one-on-one. So I'm going to go ahead and change screens here. I'm going to give Stan the presentation. Stan, welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time out and spending some time with us to guide us through how to generate reports inside of DMS.
Thank you, Doug. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to make sure that everybody can actually see my screen. All right. So basically what we're going to be doing, we're going to show you how to create a simple Steam report. And I'm going to go over through the DMS what fields are very important for this report to actually work correctly for you guys. So what you guys need to do first is, if you guys don't have DMS, for the people that are brand new to our equipment, like our Ultraprobe 15,000, 9,000, the 3,000 as well, I'll show you guys exactly where to find that software. And it's actually on our website of www.yuisystems.com, and it will be hidden underneath the product side of our web page. And basically over in this blue column, you'll actually see a section that says Software and Manuals. When you click on that, this is where you can actually download our tutorial. So basically with the DMS, you can actually click on the link down here to actually download our DMS.
Seem to have lost your sound, Stan. Now that figures. As soon as I mentioned that we're doing this live and there might be a little blip, we have a little blip. So bear with us. Bear with us just a second, folks. We'll get the audio worked out here.
All right, sorry about that, guys. Can anybody hear me?
Yep, can hear you now, Stan. Thanks. We just had a little audio blip there.
Okay. All right, let me backtrack a little bit. All right, can you guys actually see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened. So this is where you guys will actually download our software, DMS, or Specializer if you have the 10,000 or 15,000. So with that, all you guys got to do is actually do a walkthrough. And if you guys see my tutorials in the past on our website, it'll be the first part. I talk about how important the walkthrough is. So you basically take a pad of paper, pen, or pencil, go into a specific area and write down certain assets that you guys want to actually test and actually collect data on. So I'm going to open up one of my plants, come down here to Steam, and then you actually see all these different types of groups I've actually created. Now, the one that I'm actually focusing on is building number 24. And below that, you have your location, and then below that location, you actually have your individual test point. And then in this case right here, I have one steam trap I called A. If you go below that, I have another one called boiler, my boiler room, and I have several different traps right here that I have inside that boiler room. At that point, we can actually highlight the group, upload the information, send group to probe to either the 10, the 9, or the 15,000, and actually send that information to the Ultraprobe so that you guys can actually go out there and start collecting data. The steam traps are a little bit different. Basically, all you have to do is make contact on the downflow side of that trap and actually listen for the cycle of that trap. Once it cycles through, you have to make that determination if it's actually okay, you know, it's cycling okay, opening, closing correctly, or it's actually leaking by, or actually blowing through. That's going to be one of the key factors for this report to actually work correctly for you guys, is making that judgment call if it's leaking by okay or even blowing through. Now, what I'm going to do now is I went ahead and actually collected some data in the past, and I'm actually going to open up a record right here. So the information that you guys are going to be focusing in on will be this area over here. The DB values really makes no bearance whatsoever for this report to work correctly. It's all going to be for this test result, the inlet and outlet temperature, and the orifice size. Those are going to be the key factors for this report to actually work correctly. Now, the rest of the fields, you guys can actually go ahead and manipulate that information if you wanted to, and I'm going to go through each one of those fields one by one. Now, the first field that we're going to go through is that judgment call. That will be the test results. If we hit that drop-down box, we have all these different values to go with. Now, the three main factors will be blow-through. That will be the BLW, which is blow-through, LEK, which is leaking by, and then OK. All the rest is not energy loss. Like NE is no entry, NIS is actually not in service, other is just other, and then PLG is actually a plug issue, and then SIZ is actually a size issue. You know, the trap could be oversized or undersized. So the main factors that you guys need to make right through for these traps to work on the report is knowing if it's actually blowing through, if it's wide open, leaking by like motorboarding or chattering, or if it's just cycling okay. Now the next one will be the manufacturer. We have a bunch of common name ones like Armstrong, Decibel, Nicholson down here, Spire Sarco, TLV, and Yarway. So if there's another trap manufacturer that you have, and if it's not on the list, you guys can actually come over here to the File tab and do a Configure List. In here is where you guys can actually add extra stuff. So if we have a UE trap, if we happen to make a UE trap, we can just type in UE, hit OK, hit this drop-down box, and now we can actually choose UE. We have a UE trap. Same thing for the model, okay? There's several different kinds of models out there, so we just left that open for you guys. So, for example, I'm going to just say that we have a TLV trap, and then come over here to Configure List, come down here to the model, and I'm going to say I have a P46 SS. That's a thermodynamic trap that I've just tested here, and I'm going to use this as one of them. So if you have other types of models out there, you know, it could be a F&T trap, you know, thermostatic or whatever. If you know the model, you guys can actually plug that in that configure list and hit that drop-down box and actually check mark that model number. The application, I get calls on this around this time of year, trying to understand what these meanings are. So basically, AH is air handler, HE is heat exchange, NE again is going to be no entry, Pro is going to be process steam. Rad is going to be a radiant. SM is going to be steam main. And then TR is trace steam. So again, if you have something else that's not on that list, just go over to the File tab, hit Configure List, bring up your application, and type in that specific application that's not on that list that you want to use. The op type is basically the type of trap. F&T is basically F&T trap, floating thermostatic. IB is inverted bucket, no entry. TD is thermodynamic, and then TH is thermostatic. So I'm going to say this in the inverted bucket. And then pipe size, you have all these different sizes that you guys can actually choose. There's several different values in here. You know, it could be an 1.5-inch pipe if you want to use that, or you can use like a 10-inch pipe or a 14-inch pipe. I haven't seen those ever, actually. And then the orifice size. This is going to be the one factor that is always throwing people off because they don't have that value in front of them. They actually have to do some research on a particular model to get that orifice size. There's only a few people that I know that actually have that list in front of them because they actually done the research ahead of time. So if anything, talking to the experts out in the field, if you don't know the size of the trap, the rule of thumb is always use 1/8 because that is the most common orifice size that everybody uses, and it will be more conservative for your report as well. So if you don't know the orifice size, always use the 1/8 rule. Okay. The last values that's very important to the report itself is knowing the inlet and outlet temperature. There's a conversion factor within the report that converts the inlet and outlet temperatures to pressures. Okay. Now, if you have a 15,000, like I have in this one route, the 15,000 actually has a built-in temperature probe that you guys can actually use to actually document that information onto the gun itself and transfer that information to DMS automatically. Now, if you have like a 3,000, 9,000, or any other Ultraprobe out there, you guys can use a temperature probe and actually write that down on a piece of paper, you know, for test point number 1, trap number 1. It was this temperature for the inlet, and this is going to be the temperature for the outlet. And then once you dump that information into DMS, then you guys can go into these fields and manipulate whatever values that you think is relevant for your report. Now, once you have all this information in there, all we have to do now is create that report. If you remember from in the past about creating reports last year that I've done, you always have to highlight the group name, and it'll be the one that will actually be in bold lettering. So highlight building 24 for me, and then you come over here to reports, and you'll know exactly which report to bring up because DMS knows exactly where you are within this hierarchy of this tree. So we're going to create a steam report. When we do this, we generate the selected report. We have to create a name for it. So I'm going to say webinar steam. I'm going to place this on my desktop. Once I hit OK, we're going to have a box that will pop up. This is the parameter selection. In this part right here, basically, you guys can actually exclude certain parts or certain columns from the report that you guys might not want to use. In this case right here, I'm going to leave everything intact and then create another one afterwards and show you what the difference will actually look like. So we're going to hit OK. We're extracting the information out from that group and placing it into an Excel spreadsheet. Now all I have to do is just minimize, find the report. When you open the report, you're going to come here to the cost tab. The last piece of the puzzle will be knowing how much you guys actually pay per 1,000 pounds for steam to generate that steam. I'm going to make things a little bit easy. I'm going to say it's going to be $10. When I do $10, I actually have a bunch of these hashtags in here. Whenever you see that, the column is too small. So what we can do, we can extend the column over to see the true dollar value. So in this report, we're losing about $16,000 per year. But we have different options in here. We have leak and blow through, and we have certain percentages associated with this. Now, a lot of people don't like using 100% because a lot of people say that it's not fully blown through. So they would actually use either 90% or 80% blowing through. That makes the numbers a little bit more conservative. Same thing with leak. We give you guys a drop-down box to choose from and pick whatever percentage that you think is relevant for your steam trap survey. So I'm going to use the 80 and 40% rule. And then over here, your operational time, basically you can actually adjust the time and the days per year. We're going to say this is process steam. We're doing this 24/7, 365 days a year. But if you make this a little bit smaller, you're going to affect the total cost, and that'll make the dollar value even smaller. Once you have that in place, you basically go here down on the lower left-hand corner and click on data. So here's all the information that we've collected in DMS, and it's been exported here into this report. Again, if you see hash marks or hashtags here, you basically extend the column out to see the true dollar value for each trap. Now, I'm going to break this down a little bit. Basically, this is the area that we've been in, the location in DMS basement. We only have one trap here, and then we have other traps within this boiler section as well. And each one of these traps, we've actually collected all this information. So within DMS, we said that this one trap, this first trap, was 1/8 inch, and we had a temperature of the inlet side being at 255 degrees Fahrenheit, and then here's the pressure that's relevant to this temperature. So if we go to the outlet side, we have 245, which equals to about 12.6 psi gauge pressure. And then there's a certain formula that we have built into here where it will actually start crunching up the numbers that will actually spit out the pounds per hour that you guys are actually losing. And then it'll bring over the dB values if you guys want to bring in a dB value and actually start trending that stuff as well within the report. And then you got your cost tab. Now you can see right here that I said that this trap was working correctly, so we're going to have zero energy loss and $0 loss here. But if we look down here on this one trap that's blowing through at 80%, we're still losing about $4,000 per year. And then we're losing about 57 pounds per hour as well. So the main thing, if there's certain areas that you guys don't want, like the location or the system pressures that you guys don't want to actually bring over to the report, make them a little bit more condensed and a little bit easier to read, we can actually close this out and basically, let me say this. I'll show you how to exclude certain areas. So we highlight the group name again, select Steam Report, generate select report, create a name. I'm going to see Modified Web Steam. Hit OK. And I'm going to say we're going to exclude the system pressure. I'm going to say the area, the location, description, manufacturing. And let's see what else I want to exclude. Let's say we don't need the dB values or the comments if we don't want to. Hit OK. We minimize, open up the new report. It's going to take us right to the cost tab. Maybe. There we go. I'm going to say it's $10 again. 150% is going to be the default. So if you want to use 80/40 like I do, you're going to have to manipulate that all the time. Every time you generate that report, you're going to have to go in there and adjust those percentages. I'm also going to adjust my days. Let's say it's just seasonal. I'm going to say it's running 110 days a year. So now you can see that we jumped from, around $13,000 down to around $3,800 per year. Come down here to your data tab. Now you can see a much more condensed version of the report. A little bit easier to read. If you guys want to manipulate the report, condense it a little bit, you guys can actually, every time you create a name for that report, that parameter description will pop up, and then you can exclude certain columns if you wanted to. So that's basically it for the report, how to generate that.
Hey, Stan, if I could interrupt for just a second. I've had several requests. If you could actually maybe run through the whole start to finish process of generating the report, one or two more times with different reports, just so people can follow along. I'm sure there's some people taking notes and they'd like to follow along with. Maybe you could pick another one or two groups and just start over and do the whole report again.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So I'm going to choose a different report. Let me see if this actually has it. Yes. So we're going to do a boiler room. So I'll highlight that, highlight the group name, go to your report tab, select Steam report, and then you generate the selected report. Then at that point, you then create a name for that report. I'm going to say Steam test. Hit OK. And then you have a parameter selection tab. Again, this is where you guys can actually condense the report a little bit. If it's too overpowering or too much information to look at, you guys can actually eliminate certain areas or certain columns from that report. Hit OK. And I got two of them open. So let me close these out. Minimize. Open up the report. And at that point, you have to type in how much money you guys are actually are paying to produce 1,000 pounds worth of steam. And I'm going to choose a different number. I'm going to say 550. Extend this out. And I am going to adjust this to 90% for blowing through, because I don't believe the trap is always blowing through at 100%. I'm going to say leaking by 60% for whatever reason. And at that point, you come down here to the lower left, click on data, and then you can see your report. Again, there's correlation between pressure and temperature. So with this first trap that we're looking at, we have an inlet temperature of 291 degrees Fahrenheit, which equals to about 43.8 psig. And then for the outlet, it's 278 Fahrenheit, which equals to about 33 psig. And then that formula that's built into it will actually spit out how many pounds per hour that you guys are actually losing. And then it multiplies that with the cost of the steam that you guys are actually paying for. And then you put in the percentage of the leaking, and then it spits out a dollar value of how much you guys are actually losing per year out of that one particular trap. So looking at this report, the first thing that we're going to tackle is going to be this one right here, because it's costing us the most money. It's going to be around $8,200. So I'm going to have my guys go in there and actually try to replace that trap. Maybe not right now, but probably at the end of the season, I'll have that on my work order to have those guys go in there and actually replace that trap, so that we're not losing that much money next year. So if you guys want me to do it one more time, I'll do that. So let's do another one right here, boiler. So I got about 4 points right here. Again, highlight your group name, go to reports, go to Steam report, select a report, know where you're actually placing that report, and create a name for it. I'm going to say test Steam. Hit OK. And I'm going to leave everything in place, but again, this is where you can exclude certain areas of the report so that it doesn't look so overpowering. Hit OK. We're extracting the information and putting it into a spreadsheet. Now all we have to do is find that report, open it up, and then we basically type in the value of the steam cost, which will be, let's say, something really expensive, something crazy. And then we can adjust our leakage percentage. And adjust this a little bit. And then you come down here to your lower left-hand corner and then click on data. And then you can see all the information that we've collected on those 4 points, or 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes. So we're going to be looking at this one right here, these 2 traps actually, because they're costing the most money. Actually, probably about 99% of the cost right there. So we're going to flag those 2 traps and replace them at the end of the season so that we're not losing more money next year. Okay. Now, is there any questions concerning this report?
Yeah, a couple questions, Stan, came in here, and one of them I think is appropriate now because you have this report open. Is it possible inside that spreadsheet to sort the traps by highest cost to lowest cost to prioritize which ones to tackle first?
No, there's no way for this report to actually manipulate to put, like, let's say that these 2 $8,000 traps together. Well, I mean, you can, like this one is not costing us any money. You guys can actually right-click here and actually delete that column if you wanted to and do it that way. But yeah, I mean, that would be the only way that you guys would be able to put these 2 together is by deleting a column or row or whatever. I wouldn't advise doing that because once you delete it, I think you can actually do an undo. Yeah. So if you do something by mistake, you can actually do a undo button to bring it back. But to actually move stuff around physically by just clicking and dragging, no, you can't do that in this report.
Okay, a couple more questions. Can you use this report with one of the analog instruments?
Yes, it's going to take a little bit more time because you're actually going to have to go into the DMS and actually plug in the values manually. But we do have some people out in the field that actually have, let's say, an Ultraprobe 2000, for instance, and they would actually create a record and then bring up that record information and actually fill in the values by hand here. But yeah, it is doable.
Okay. Is it possible to change it from pounds to kilograms?
Yes. You would actually have to come over here to your edit preferences underneath the edit tab and then change your units right here if you wanted to. And you can also change the currency. So if you're over in Europe and have the euro, you can use the euro and then hit OK. And then I actually do have a European report that I can actually generate for you guys. This would be a good one. Say Euro Steam. Okay. So you have the euro right here. Now, instead of being per 1,000 pounds, it's actually per ton. So you have to know how much you're actually paying for steam over, let's say, over in Germany or whatever. Let's say it's going to be 22 euros. And then you can adjust it this way as well. The only thing that's changed is, you know, obviously using the metric and then using the euro dollar. So we only got 2 traps that we tested. One of them is actually okay. The other one's actually costing us just over 500 euros. And then again, instead of being Fahrenheit, you actually have Celsius. So we don't have the PSIG anymore. We actually have the bar system over there. So 145 Celsius will equal to about 3.1 bar gauge. And then again, the pounds per hour switches over to kilograms per hour. Any other questions?
Perfect. Yeah, one other question here. I'm sure this was just an oversight, Stan, but the question was, noticed that you had on on your report, the Ultraprobe set at 40 kilohertz, and he was asking whether it should be 25.
Yeah, I mean, we always say anywhere between 20 and 25 kilohertz to actually listen to a trap. This isn't really a true reading that I've actually took with it. I didn't go out to a basement and actually found some traps. But yeah, typically you would actually have this adjusted to either 20 kilohertz, or 22 or whatever. As long as you're in between the 20 and 25 kilohertz range, you're fine. But again, we're not documenting the dB values. All we're doing, we're actually just listening to the trap and actually making that judgment call. That's going to be very important with the Ultraprobe. And then at that point, everything else, if you don't have a 15,000, you can use a temperature probe to get your inlet and outlet temperature for that trap. And orifice size, you guys can actually find that out at your office, more than likely. But yeah, that is a good pointer right there. But I should not have used 40. I knew better than that.
Okay. I think there's a couple more questions in here, Stan, but for those who didn't get your question answered, we'll go ahead and email you answers. I think a few of them actually require fairly lengthy answers. So for the sake of time, we'll probably go into those via email or a phone call and get some of the other ones answered. I don't see any more questions. Thanks, Stan.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, you guys can always email us, and I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. But yeah, if you want to send your questions to us to info@yuisystems.com, anything to do with any of the reports or DMS, definitely send those questions over to us that way, and I will actually respond to every one of them as quickly as possible. Thank you for your time, guys.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stan. If you guys want to just hold on a second, I'm going to go ahead and jump back in here. Just a few closing remarks. Just let me show my screen here. And for a lot of other information, not just about steam, but about leak detection, electrical inspection, condition monitoring, bearing inspection, condition-based lubrication, please check out our website. We've got just a tremendous amount of information on there. We've also got a lot of past Ultrasound World presentations from our conference. We've got several on Steam, not so much on how to generate the reports, but more on the how-to. We've got a few great presentations there from past users of what they've done for their steam programs in their plant. We've got plenty of training courses. Keep your eye on the website, and many of you who are on our email list will probably receive some invites for these coming up classes. Steam Trap Examiner course, level 1 and 2 ultrasound certification courses, and keep your eyes peeled for a new course, a compressed air survey course, which is going to be available soon, probably online. Get connected. We'd love for you to stay connected and keep in contact with not only us, but different people in the industry who may share some of the same challenges and share some of the same results that you're getting, good and bad, with your ultrasound programs, hopefully mostly good. But please keep in touch with us. Join our Ultraprobe users and Reliable Asset World groups on LinkedIn. Follow us on Twitter. Check out our Sound Advice blog, yuisystemsblog.com. A lot of great information there. Save some dates. September is now Steamtember. This month's dedicated to everything about steam. Join us next week for another great webinar on steam trap testing from DuPont. V. Guidry will be with us. He's also presented down at Ultrasound World. You could actually get a flavor for what he's going to talk about by looking on our website, clicking on one of the conferences and going to past presentations. V presented the year before last. Great presentation on what they did for air and steam at DuPont. That'll be next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Definitely save the date for our upcoming conferences. The conferences are in May 10 through 13, running simultaneously, Ultrasound World, Reliable Asset World in beautiful Clearwater Beach, Florida. We've already got some great presenters lined up. It's looking like it's going to be another fantastic event. So please save those dates. And again, everyone, thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. Thank you to Stan for some very valuable information on putting those STEAM reports together. We're going to go ahead and leave our contact information up here. Please call, reach out by email, and we'll be happy to answer any of the questions that we didn't get to and share any information we can with you. Have a great and safe day.